My name is Shad Hallahan. I have the honor of being the principal here at Joliet Central. I want to welcome all of you to the 2017 Joliet Central Veterans Ceremony. This is one of my favorite events of the year. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, teachers and staff, for bringing your students down this afternoon. Thank you to the members of the community who have decided to join us this afternoon. We appreciate that. And thank you most of all to all of the veterans who have joined us this afternoon. We thank you for being here, but more importantly, we thank you for your service. We also have several elected officials who have taken time to join us this afternoon to honor our veterans, and I'd like to introduce each of them. When I introduce you, if you would please stand and be recognized, I'd appreciate that. We have several members of our Board of Education here today. Our Board of Education President, Mr. Jeff Pearson. Board Vice President, Mr. David Skrupa. Board Member Frank Edmond Jr. And Board Member Arlene Albert. Also with us this afternoon is the Mayor of Joliet, Mr. Bob Odekirk. Will County Executive Larry Walsh. Councilwoman at Large for the City of Joliet, Jan Quillman. Councilman at Large for the City of Joliet, Mr. Don Dickinson. Will County Board Member Lauren Staley-Ferry. Will County Board Member Denise Winfrey. Will County Board Member Gloria Dollinger. Mayor of Crest Hill, Mr. Raymond Solomon. And here representing Congressman Bill Foster's office, Craig Gentman. So thank you all for coming and joining us today. With that, I am going to turn it over to Major Jaco to begin the program. So thank you.
Thank you. Will everybody please rise for the posting of the colors? And the national anthem will be sung by the Joliet Central Choir. United States of America, established July 4th, 1776 by the Second Continental Congress. United States Army, established June 14th, 1775 by the Second Continental Congress. United States Marines, established November 10th, 1775 by the Second Continental Congress. United States Navy, established October 13th, 1775 by the Second Continental Congress. United States Air Force, established September 18th, 1947 by the 80th United States Congress. United States Coast Guard, established August 4th, 1790 by the First United States Congress. Please be seated. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Terry Piazza, U.S. history teacher at Joliet Central.
Welcome. It is with great pleasure that I provide the introduction for today's event, recognizing the sacrifices that members of the military have made and continue to make in times of national crisis. Veterans Day is the annual United States holiday honoring our nation's military veterans. It is a federal holiday that is observed on November 11th, the anniversary of the signing of the armistice that ended World War I. Originally called Armistice Day, the name was changed in 1953 to Veterans Day, effectively acknowledging all veterans. This year, on the 100th anniversary of the United States entering World War I, Joliet Central wanted to specifically recognize the students and staff of Joliet Township High School and Joliet Junior College who voluntarily made the decision to leave school or employment to serve our country in 1917. We are connected to these veterans daily. We walk the same hallways, share the same classrooms, and resolve to fight for what we believe in. Pause for a moment and consider two words for me: honor and hero. These are not words to be used lightly. They are words we reserve for those who make a conscious decision to give their all. Certainly, these words are appropriate when describing our veterans. For those with us today and those who are not, I am forever indebted to you and the principles you fight to uphold. I respect you, I support you, but most importantly, I thank you. Without further delay, I'd like to welcome Trenton Olson in World War I military attire, provided by Sergeant First Class Greg Klugowitz.
In 1917 and 1918, 38 Joliet Township High School students voluntarily entered the military service in World War I by leaving school early or immediately after their graduation. In addition to these students, 6 teachers from the school also elected to volunteer for the military to serve in World War I. In the Joliet Township High School yearbook of 1917, the president of the senior class, Grant Brown, wrote a dedication to these students. We are now engaged in the world's greatest war, a war different from any previous war experienced by this nation. In the past, this institution has stimulated not only a patriotism for America, but a respect for the thing which is right. So there were those in the high school who heard the call of humanity and answered it by their enlistment. We who are at home cannot fully appreciate the offer of self for the good of others made by the boys from the high school. The majority of the students from the class of 1917 enlisted in Company E of the 131st Infantry Regiment. They bivouacked and trained for several weeks at Delwood Park in Lockport before shipping to Fort Sam Houston in Texas, and then deploying to France in May 1918. They saw extensive action in the final year of battles in World War I. 2 Joliet students lost their lives in the service for their country. Private First Class Harold Heap was killed in action during the Battle of Amel, France, July 4th, 1918. Sergeant Laverne Olvenheimer was killed in action August 9, 1918, during the Somme Offensive. In 1922, local businessman Conrad Braun donated to the high school a statue of a World War I doughboy soldier. The statue, entitled The World Soldier, was placed on the east side of the high school as a memorial to the students and the faculty who served during the war. May we never forget their love of country and service to our nation.
everyone please rise. We will now play Taps performed by Adrian Perez and Zacharias Burstad. Thank you. Please be seated. The Joliet Central Choir, under the direction of Mr. Stephen Piter, will now sing America, My Country 'Tis of Thee. I'd now like to take this opportunity to recognize current faculty and staff here at Joliet Central who are military veterans. When I call your name, please stand and face the audience and remain standing until all names have been called. I also ask that you hold your applause until the very end. Mr. Chuck Ball, United States Army. Mr. Gardner Coughlin, United States Army. Mr. Mark Dunn, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Retired Francine Farmer, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Retired Craig Foster, United States Army. Gunnery Sergeant Retired Brian Furzik, United States Marines. Mr. Larry Gillan, United States Marines. Ms. Sandra Green, United States Navy. Sergeant First Class Retired Gregory Klugowitz, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Retired Calvin Lee, United States Army. Mr. Raymond Orozco, United States Army. And Mr. Alfred Warren, United States Army. And I would like to now introduce Ms. Christine Schlishman, the Director of Community and Alumni Relations for Joliet Township High School, District 204.
Welcome to all our veterans. It is with great pleasure that we honor your service to our country today. When I call your name, please stand and face the audience. Please hold your applause until all names have been announced. World War II era, Bernie Girl. Bernie is a World War II veteran of the U.S. Air Force who served our country as a professional baseball player for the Army. Bernie is a 1944 graduate of JTHS. Korean War era, Matthew Gregorich. After graduating from Joliet Central in 1950, Matthew served in the Army and earned the rank of corporal. He was assigned to a group of Army engineers that built runways for the Air Force in Korea. He received many awards such as the Korean Service Medal, Good Conduct Medal, Korean Battle Star Medal, and Defense Medal. His two grandchildren, Emily and Alexander, currently attend Central. Lloyd Lundberg. Lloyd served our country in the U.S. Navy during the Korean War from 1951 to 1954. He served on the USS Piedmont AD-17 and earned the rank of Electrician Mate Second Class, stationed in California and later in Korea. He was a teacher and administrator for 35 years, as well as a realtor, earning the RE/MAX Hall of Fame Distinguished Career Award. Lloyd is an active member of his local VFW and is a 1949 graduate of JTHS. Thomas Streitz. Thomas was a U.S. Air Force captain serving from 1956 to 1958. He is a 1949 graduate of JTHS. Thomas served on the JTHS School Board from 2007 to 2009. Vietnam era, James Clausen. James served in the U.S. Navy as a machinist mate second class on the USS Kitty Hawk. During his time in the military, James was awarded a Navy Unit Commendation Medal, Navy Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, Republic of Vietnam Gallantry Cross, and a Vietnam Campaign Medal. Larry Evert. Larry served as a member of the 37th Aerospace Rescue and Recovery Squadron from 1968 to 1969. The squadron would, with the aid of Jolly Green Giant rescue helicopters, search for and save fellow soldiers who may have been shot down during dogfights or after a surface-to-air missile hit. Mr. Everett is also a former Joliet Central employee who retired in 2012. James Jackamey. James' tour of duty in Vietnam took place from 1970 to 1972. He was a Sergeant E5 with the Army 1st Signal Brigade and MAC-V. James held many roles during his military career, such as an M60 machine gunner and communication radio specialist. During his service, he received 7 different medals. James is a 1969 graduate of Joliet West. Robert Gunzler. Robert is a 1949 graduate of Joliet Township High School. He served in the U.S. Army as a sergeant from 1953 to 1955. Robert was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, Fort Bliss, Fort Hood, and Fort Benjamin Harrison. He was a personnel management specialist and earned an American Defense Ribbon and Good Conduct Medal. He was a member of the 1st Armored Division. Kim Hughes. After graduating from Joliet East in 1973, Kim served in the Navy on the USS Blueback, a ship that is now on display at the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. Kim dedicated his time to various jobs during his years of service, including teaching basic electronics and serving as a boot camp trainer and working recruitment in the Joliet area. Kim rose to the rank of Petty Officer First Class and earned recognition for good conduct and sea service. Joe Kosielko. Joe was a sergeant in the Army Infantry Tunnel Rat from 1969 to 1970. He earned a Purple Heart as well as a Vietnam Service recognition. Joe is a Joliet East graduate from the class of 1968. Larry Lindholm. Larry earned the rank of Specialist 4th Class in the U.S. Army. He was MOS 55G, an Army Nuclear Weapons Machine Specialist. Throughout his military career from 1970 to 1973, Larry was stationed at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, Sandia Army Base in New Mexico, and the Republic of Germany. Nicholas Macris. Nicholas served as a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. He spent 4 years on active duty and 16 years in the U.S. Army Reserves. During his time of service, Nicholas received the Meritorious Service Medal. He is a 1969 graduate of Joliet West. Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Operation Iraqi Freedom Era. Natalie Coleman. Natalie was a captain in the Illinois Army National Guard during Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. She was then stationed in Kuwait and later Iraq. During her 13 years of service, Natalie served in several positions, including a platoon leader in Iraq, company commander back in the States, and finally, a battalion personnel officer where she was responsible for personal matters for over 800 soldiers. Through her service, Natalie earned a Military Commendation Medal, Global War on Terror Service Medal, Global War on Terror Expeditionary Medal, and an Overseas Service Medal. Natalie is a 1997 Joliet Central graduate. Lorena Verdon. Lorena retired as a Master Sergeant from the Air Force. She served on the 92nd Civil Engineering Squadron in Fairchild Air Force Base from 1978 to 1982, and then from 1982 to 1996 on the 928th Civil Engineering Squadron stationed at the O'Hare Air Reserve. Lorena was selected to serve on the Pacific Northwest Ceremonial Team and served with the Prime Base Engineer Emergency Force Team. During her years of service, Lorena earned the Meritorious Service Medal, Air Force Achievement Medal, Air Force Good Conduct Medal, Air Reserve Forces Meritorious Service Medal, Humanitarian Service Medal, Air Force Longevity Service Award Medal, Air Force Armed Forces Reserve Medal, Small Arms Expert Marksmanship Ribbon, and an Air Force Training Ribbon. Lorena is a graduate of the Joliet Central High School class of 1978. Stone City VFW. We are also honored to have a group of veterans from Stone City VFW Post 2199 joining us today. Please stand when I call your name. Richard Cece. After completing basic training at Camp Carson in Colorado, Richard was sent to Korea in February of 1951. He was assigned to the 8th Medium Tank Battalion, 25th Infantry Division. During his time in Korea, he was wounded in battle and was awarded a Purple Heart on September 16, 1951. After Korea, he was sent to Fort Hood, Texas for 2 months, and then to Germany to finish his 4-year tour of duty. During his time in the military, he earned the rank of corporal. Al Hoppy. Al was a private first class in the U.S. Marines. His basic training was completed at Camp Pendleton, California, and in 1953 he was sent to Korea. He was in the 1st Marine Division and came home in 1954 with a variety of medals. Felix Pasteris. Only 3 weeks after graduating from Joliet Township High School in 1940, Felix joined the United States Air Force and served in the 1st Fighter Group as a crew chief on a P-38 fighter plane. During his tour, which lasted until 1945, he reached the rank of Tech Sergeant and saw action in Africa and the Corsica invasion of southern France. He received 3 presidential citations and a Bronze Star. Kevin Pamikala. Kevin served 20 years in the U.S. Navy from 1980 to 2000. Kevin earned the position of Naval Aviation Electrician First Class. During his time in the Navy, Kevin served on various ships and aircraft carriers. He earned numerous medals over his years of service. Caroline Lakes. We are pleased to welcome the veterans of Caroline Lakes who are with us today, representing numerous years of service. Please stand and be recognized. And this concludes our recognition of veterans. However, before I end, would any veterans whose names were not called please stand and be recognized? At this time, please join me in a round of applause to thank the men and women who bravely served our country.
At this time, the band, under the direction of student conductor Jasmine Flores, will play a song based on General Douglas MacArthur's famous farewell address in 1962 to the Corps of Cadets at the West Point Military Academy. This piece is entitled Duty, Honor, Country. Code of conduct of chivalry who guard this beloved land. An ideal so noble that it arouses a sense of pride and yet humility. An expression of the ethics of the American man-at-arms. Duty, honor, country. Those 3 words build courage when courage seems to fail. Regain faith when there seems to be little cause for faith. Create hope when hope seems forlorn. The American man-at-arms, above all other people, prays for peace, for he must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war. Duty, honor, country. The unbelievers will say they are but words, a slogan, or a flamboyant phrase. Every demagogue, every cynic, and every hypocrite will try to downgrade them to the extent of mockery and ridicule. The code which those words perpetuate embraces the highest moral law and and will stand the test of any ethics or philosophies ever published for the uplift of mankind. Around 1,000 campfires, on 100 battlefields, listening for the witching melody of faint bugles blowing reveille. Long, far-off drums beating the long roll. This is the story of the American man-at-arms. His name and fame are the birthright of every American citizen. In his youth and strength, his love and loyalty, he gave all that mortality can give. He has never failed us. Were he to do so, 1,000,000 ghosts in olive drab, in brown khaki, in blue and gray would rise from their white crosses, thundering those magic words: duty, honor, country. The band will now perform under the direction of Mr. Don Stinson, a tribute to the armed services with the traditional medley of the 5 service songs. If you're a veteran or have relatives or loved ones who have served or are currently serving in the military, we ask that you stand when your respective service song is played. United States Army! All right, the band will now perform a final song for you by the famous Marine Corps veteran composer John Philip Sousa. The piece is entitled Stars and Stripes Forever.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. I just want to take a moment and personally thank all the students who are involved in this ceremony, the band, the choir, all of our ROTC cadets. You did a fantastic job. We recognize it's a busy time, especially for band and choir, with upcoming concerts and performances and musicals. But because they understand the importance of honoring our veterans, they always embrace this, and they do a fantastic job. So thank you. Just one reminder, I'd like to welcome all of our guests and especially our veterans to A reception we will be hosting in the Student Center Galleria, which if you go out the auditorium is on the other side of the building. Some of our culinary arts students have prepared snacks and treats for us, and I know that many of our students would love to meet our veterans and get to know you. So please, if you can, stay for that. And that concludes our ceremony. So thank you all very much, and let's have one more round of applause for all of our veterans, please.